That day, I was accompanying Saito-san on his rounds. It sure has been hot lately. I've gotten used to the city of Kyo, but I just can't get used to this humid heat.
そうだな。
I always wondered. Even in midsummer, Saito-san always wore his full uniform. Wasn't he hot? He kept his vigilant guard up while observing the city of Kyo.
ひとまずあそこの店から回ることにするか。雪村、あんたは店の前で待っていろ。共に来ても手持ち無沙汰だろう。
Alright. He gave me a short nod of confirmation and stepped into the shop with his men.
新選組だ。先日、浪人風の男が出入りしていたという噂を耳にした。戦議させてもらう。
I've been waiting for Saito-san and his division for a few minutes when I noticed a commotion nearby.
てめえら道を開けやがれ。勤王の獅子様がお通りだ。
A number of rather unpleasant-looking Ronin were making their way in my general direction, yelling, threatening, and intimidating anyone unfortunate enough to cross their path. Patriots? Hardly. Perhaps they consider themselves loyal to the imperial court, but they look like the sort who only use their supposed patriotism as an excuse to steal and kill.
おら、邪魔だって言ってんだろ。
The Ronin tossed a poorly aimed kick at a child playing in the street. What should I do? It seemed like the warriors were preoccupied with their investigation in the store. Just as I was about to stop the Ronin.
やめなさいよ、みっともない。
あ？なんだてめえは。たかが女が俺たち勤王の獅子に意見するってのか。
そのたかが女に意見されることをみっともないと思いなさいよ。今日の人がどれだけ迷惑してるのかわからないの？
乗れ。
The man's obviously short fuse had been lit. He made a grab for the girl and missed. I suspected his next attack wouldn't be as inaccurate. I couldn't let that happen. Natte! When I had come to my senses, I noticed that I had instinctively taken action. I had positioned myself in front of the girl, protecting her.
なんだお前は。その女の知り合いか。
No, I don't.
知り合いじゃねえんならすっ込んでろ。
Flex's spit flew from his mouth as he roared at me, and my legs suddenly felt somewhat weaker than they had a moment ago. But I was committed. I couldn't run now. If you truly love your country as you say, then why do you abuse women and children? A samurai should protect common people, not attack them.
なんだと。そうだそうだ、いいぞお兄ちゃん。獅子気取りの不定老師め、今日からさっさと出ていけ。
Something about my speech must have struck a chord with the gathering crowd. With the cheers, my legs started to regain some of their usual steadiness.
くそ、バカにしやがって。
With the rough hiss of metal, the Ronin's sword leaped from its scabbard. I suddenly discovered I had difficulty swallowing. I could try to dodge, but if I did, he might hit the girl my actions had intended to protect. I was about to draw my sword. Slowly, carefully, I opened my eyes.
安心しろ。峰打ちだ。
Saito-san!
貴様。
そいつを屯所に連れて行け。長州の残党かもしれん。
はい。
Working quickly, Saito-san's men set to work binding the Ronin for transport. Saito-san's cold eyes fell on me. Uh-oh.
何故俺を呼ばなかった。万が一のことがあったらどうするつもりだったのだ。
I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking. But I couldn't help myself. I mean, what if she were to get injured?
怪我なんてしないわよ。まったくもう無茶しちゃって。
A scolding for Saito-san was expected, but I hadn't thought that my erstwhile damsel in distress would contribute. I'm sorry I made you worry. I gave her a short, slightly confused bow to which she blinked as if suddenly remembering something very important.
あ、でも私あなたに助けてもらったのよね。まだお礼を言ってなかったわ。ありがとう。
Oh, well, I didn't do anything. It was Saito-san and his men who made the actual arrest.
別に謙遜なんてしなくていいのに。見て見ぬふりをするよりはずっと立派だったんだから。これも何かの縁だし、女の子同士仲良くしましょうね。
What? Saito-san glanced from her to me, and an expression flashed across his face that I couldn't quite place.
見る者が見ればわかることだ。動揺するな。
あら、もしかして内緒だったの？まずかったかしら。
Well, I wasn't entirely sure how to respond. How does a person respond to that sort of question? She seemed to sense my confusion and gracefully moved on.
あ、ところでまだお名前を聞いてなかったわね。これも何かの縁ですもの。教えてくれるかしら。
Well, this is...
そちらの方は斉藤さんよね。新選組は有名だもの。知ってるわ。で、あなたの名前は？
My name is Chizuru Yukimura. It's nice to meet you.
雪村。
Her eyes grew wide as if she were surprised, and she stared intently at me.
あなた、雪村って姓なの？生まれは東国？
Why, yes. I was living in Edo, but I had to come to Kyoto for a certain reason. She was acting a little strange, so I tried to speak to her and she laughed and looked up.
ごめんなさい、なんでもないの。知り合いと同じ姓だったから。雪村ってすごく綺麗な名字ね。
You think so? Thank you.
よろしくね。私のことはセンって呼んで。
Sensa? Nice to meet you.
なんか水臭いわね。見たところ同い年ぐらいだし、そんなにかしこまらなくていいわよ。
So just Sen, then.
まあいいわ。そう呼んでちょうだい。じゃあまた会いましょうね。
She gave my hand a gentle squeeze, then turned and left, her kimono flapping behind her. Our encounter was over before I had a chance to grasp what was happening, so I simply stood, stunned, for a moment or two. Saito-san was eyeing Sen walking off, and eventually he turned to me.
あの娘、あんたのせいが気にかかっている様子だったが。
I know, She did say it was the same as her acquaintances. Well, I guess Yukimura isn't an uncommon name either. It seemed like Saito-san was concerned with her reaction to my name, and he was deep in thought.
予定からだいぶ遅れてしまった。そろそろ行くことにするか。
So we continued on our rounds, trying to withstand the scorching heat. The heat wave ended up lasting several days. On one such day, we've been through this. I thought back on what Hijikata-san had said. Oh, I know what this is. This is the Fury section, yep. Thinking. Yes, it has to be. After that, the rest of the warriors who'd gone to Shimabara returned, and they told me in great detail about the Sanjo notice board incident, but out of everything I'd heard, there was one thing in particular that caught my attention. They told me that when Harada and his men had been attacked at Sanjo Ohashi, one of them had been someone who looked a lot like me. This strange person had tried to impede the Shinsengumi and sided with the vandals from the Tosa domain. I haven't left the temple, of course, and even if I had been a Sanjo Ohashi, I would never have tried to get in the Shinsengumi's way. But if it wasn't me, then who? What could it mean? This news only fed the anxiety that had been slowly building within me. Alright, last scene is gonna be cute, damn it. I remember what it is. Unless I'm remembering the wrong order, but I'm pretty sure this is December 1866. Okay, now we get the cute scene. End of December 1867. The year had flashed before our eyes, and before we knew it, it drew to a close. It put us in high spirits, having experienced a year without any major battles or incidents. As everyone began gathering to celebrate the new year, we discussed our hopes for what was to come, and looked to welcome the season with open arms. Then, one snowy day in the middle of winter. It's cold. I felt his icy fingers trying to work their way under my blanket the moment I woke up. My breath puffed out in white clouds, and the light streaming in my window had an odd, bright quality. Was it possible? Oh, wow! I looked outside and gasped. A few flakes were still drifting down, but it clearly snowed much harder overnight. The entire compound was white. I had thought it seemed colder than usual, and now I knew why. Huh? Amidst all the white, there was a column of black, a person. Was it? Saito-san! I hurried down the steps. He turned slowly and looked at me.
あんたか。今日は随分早起きなのだな。
So have you. What are you doing out here by yourself?
先ほどまで道場で剣の稽古をしていた。稽古を終えた後、雪が積もっているのに気づいたから足を止めてみた。それだけだ。
He fell silent again and looked up at the sky, his face full of muted emotions. I couldn't decipher. If you just finished training, are you, sweaty? I feel like you should dry off, or you're going to get sick.
あんたこそ中に戻って火鉢にでも当たっていた方がいいのではないか。冷えは万病の元というだろう。
He continued to stare at the falling snow and gave no indication that he meant to move. I glanced down at his hands. The cold had already turned his fingertips red, but he either hadn't noticed or didn't care. Do you like the snow? He didn't speak, but from the look on his face, I could tell what his answer would be.
雪というのは不 思議なものだな。
Look at that smile on Saito's face. He loves the snow. He looked up at the sky again, a faint smile pulling at his eyes. Powerful.
美しいものも汚れたものも全てを白く覆い隠す。この風景の中に身を置いていると自分ではない清らかな何かになれるのではないかとそう錯覚してしまう。
He looked and sounded as somber and serious as he always did, but there was a small satisfied smile on his face that I had never seen before. Eventually he turned to look at me.
中に戻らんのか。この寒さの中その軽装では冷えるだろう。
No, I think I'll stay here and look at the snow with you a little bit longer. He looked at me for a moment with an expression I couldn't read.
物好きだな、あんたは。
He turned back around as the snow fell silently around us. Oh no. He blinked and looked at me.
どうした？何かあったか？
Do you want to, play Saito-san? I was just thinking that maybe you'd like to, play in the snow instead of just watching it?
遊ぶ？一体何をするというのだ？
Well, we could make a snowman or a fort or something. I guess a snowball fight wouldn't be very much fun with just two people. His eyes widened.
雪だるまに鎌倉か。わらべのようなことを言うのだな。
Really? Am I that childish?
別に悪行のつもりで言ったわけではない。気にするな。
He turned around again, slightly more quickly, I thought, and looked at the snow.
だが残念ながら、雪だるまを作れるほどは積もっていないようだ。この雪もおそらく昼には溶けてしまうだろう。
Oh, yeah. I felt a little smaller. He seemed to like the snow so much, but I felt like there had to be something I could do to make him happy. Of course! Oh, do you want to make a snow bunny?
雪うさぎ？なんだそれは。
His eyebrows pulled down almost imperceptibly. Oh god. Oh, come on, don't tell me you don't know. Oh, come on, don't tell me you don't know. When I was a kid, I'd make them for my dad every time it snowed.
過分にして聞いたことがない。
Then I'll make you one right now. Hold on.
いや、わざわざ俺のために手間をかけさせるのも。
Oh, don't worry, it'll only take me a second. As I spoke, I began to search the yard for berries and leaves to fashion its eyes and ears from. Saito didn't move and watched me silently as I trotted around in the snow. For a moment, I felt like I was a child again, walking through the yard of my old home in the middle of the winter. Before long. All done. Here you go. I picked up the bunny gently and carried it to him. This is gonna be so cute.
なるほど。これが雪うさぎか。
I can't. Look at the snow bunny. It's so cute. And Saito is just slightly confused. I can't. He stared at the thing in my hands. Isn't it cute? Here, I made it for you.
差し上げると言われても これをもらってどうしろと。
He was visibly confused, which for Saito-san was saying a lot. Oh, you don't like it? I swallowed and started to step back, but
いや、
he was silent for a moment. Then,
手がずいぶん冷えているな。部屋に戻ったら温めておいた方がいい。ひびや赤切れができるかもしれん。
Until he spoke, I hadn't realized that our hands were touching. I blushed. His long, slender fingers were cupped around my hands, even through the stinging cold of the snow, I could feel a faint warmth from them.
どうした？頬まで赤くなってきたようだが、霜焼けか？
No, that's not it. With his deep blue eyes looking into mine, I felt very shy suddenly and rushed to pull my hands away.
そろそろ中に戻った方が良さそうだな。あんたに風邪でもひかせては、副長に何を言われるかわからん。
He looked down at the snow bunny I had unceremoniously deposited in his hands when I withdrew and smiled.
この雪うさぎはありがたく受け取っておく。すぐに溶けてなくなってしまいそうなのは残念だが。
No, I don't want to think about the melting snow bunny. There was a hint of kindness in his normally flat tone. He inclined his head to me, then turned and walked towards the main temple. As I watched him go, I could still feel the warmth of his hands on mine. The snow bunny remained on Saito's windowsill until the snow melted. Nagakura and Heisuke saw it and laughed. Who knew, they said. Saito-san got so excited when it snowed that he made a snow bunny. I guess he was a kid once. Oh my god. And the fact it stayed on his windowsill. Oh my god.